through. Here comes the sun, and I say it's alright. Woo! Sun, 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 here we come. So hey everybody, so good to be with you tonight. You missed most of my singing, which you should thank me for. Hey hey Eula, it's good to see you. So really what we want to talk about tonight is the winter solstice. And the funny thing about the winter solstice, the summer solstice, things like that, um, is that they are actually contradictory to what seems logical. Right here in the middle of winter, the beginning of winter, which is what the winter solstice is all about, is a change from fall to winter. We really are celebrating the return of the sun because that night will mark the shortest day. I mean, and the longest. Wait a minute, I got that wrong. The shortest day, the longest night of the year, right? So, how can that possibly be? That we're welcoming back the sun because now we will go from having very short days, and the sun will return, and each day will be longer and longer and longer and longer, right? So we are celebrating the return of the sun, even as we are celebrating the deepest part of winter. And and even if that's a little bit contradictory, that's what this whole celebration is about. So I want to welcome you to embracing the magic of the winter solstice. That's what I'm calling this officially. And I did light a beautiful candle here, a beautiful red candle to symbolize, and this is my biggie, right? And that's to symbolize not only the presence of spirit, which is what a candle symbolizes whenever you're doing spiritual work, um, or the invitation to spirit, I should say, right? But also the festive red color is really something that I enjoy, and I'm wearing green tonight. So hopefully we have all of those elements of the winter solstice and the season of the year with us tonight. So I'm really glad to have you with me. So as I was saying before, when we're just talking about what is the solstice about, it's about that returning of the sun, because the days will get longer and longer and the nights will get shorter and shorter. So that's why we consider it the return of the sun. Okay? So if you've got a moment, I invite you too to light a candle where you are so that you can be inviting in spirit as well. And I usually do this all the time on Moonday messages, but sometimes I just really forget to invite people to do that. So I'm inviting you now. Please join me in lighting a candle, inviting in spirit, and learning more about what the solstice is about right now. Okay. Now, one of the things we know about the solstice scientifically, we'll start there, right? We'll examine it on a few different levels, is that this is where the earth begins to tilt more toward the sun in the western hemisphere, right? In the northern hemisphere, rather. In the southern hemisphere, it begins to tilt away, right? So we are getting more and more sun as the earth continues to tilt, and this is why our days are getting longer, and they will eventually begin to get warmer in the spring and summer, and then we will be able to really enjoy all the benefits of having that much sun around us, right? So when we get that kind of that peak apex of where the sun is really beaming down on the earth at its maximum angle for us to receive all that beautiful sunlight and heat and whatever, that's when we will have spring and summer. So um, the other thing I want to point out to you is that the solstice has been, maybe we can't, I wouldn't say it's been worshipped, but it has been venerated from ancient times. And I'll tell you a little story about when I was in England, right? And if you know anything about Stonehenge, you know that this is a place where Druids and other people gather during the 4 points of the year, mostly the solstices. And what the word solstice is about the sun, right? When we have the equinoxes, they're about things being equal, equal night, equal day, right? But the solstices are about where the position of the sun is. So in ancient times, it was said that there were different ways, places where you could stand within Stonehenge, where you would be able to see um, the through the different openings or whatever, the clarity of the sun coming through. Okay, and so what we really want to focus on right now, um, because we don't really have Stonehenge like it used to be. Supposedly, Stonehenge was actually a circular structure um, that represented the months of the year. However, with the passage of time and destruction, whatever, many of the columns have fallen down, and but it's still a very powerful place. I went to see Stonehenge a few years ago, and I took my little niece, who was about 2.5, with me, and my mom and my sister. We had all gone to Bath, England, for the Jane Austen Festival. But on this particular day, they went someplace, and I just said, "Let me go to Stonehenge," which was about an hour and a half away, I think. Well, the ride started out very, normal and whatever, but maybe about halfway there, everybody on the entire bus just knocked out. Everyone was like, there was one point where I noticed I'm paying attention to my little niece. She knocks out. And so I'm looking around at everybody else, and everybody on this bus is like, but about half an hour, 20 minutes before we get to Stonehenge, everybody miraculously wakes up. I don't know what it was about this trip, or maybe it was we were going to this destination and we needed some extra energy, something, but everybody, including myself, went on. But once we woke up, you could feel a radiant energy in that bus. Like whether you were sensitive or not. Being sensitive, I really felt it strongly, but everybody started to just get restless and whatever. And when we got there, I mean, it was a beautiful day, beautiful blue skies overhead with fluffy clouds. It was just beautiful, but you could feel the energy in this place. And there was what people don't remark on a lot is that you have kind of the structure of Stonehenge, but off to the side, there's like this great big boulder. And what it struck me as was it was a great big crystal grid. And the thing off to the side must have been the master crystal that directed Stonehenge as to what it was supposed to do. And if you know anything about creating crystal grids, you know that usually you have a master crystal that you use to help charge the others. So that's what it really struck me as. And it was so, so powerful. So you could see why this would be a place of gathering on spiritual nexuses like the solstices or the equinoxes, where people could really get together to feel the energy and to share that energy with each other. It was just really phenomenal. And, that's not to say that other societies have not, throughout time, venerated the equinoxes and the solstices similarly. Okay. And that may be something that you may want to think about or find out for yourself, for your own uh, historical or ethnic background. What did the people who lived where you are from do to venerate the solstices and the equinoxes? Because it wasn't just something that was noticed at Stonehenge, but around the world. Okay. Another thing that we tend to celebrate around this time is Yule. Okay. And Yule is all about feasting, getting together, the evergreen trees and wreaths, which really represent the resiliency of nature, right? Because they never die. They are perennial. I think that's what you call them, where they never go into hibernation like most plants do, like the trees outside my house right now, which have lost every single freaking leaf, which had to be swept up, right? So, so it's a time where we really can be thinking about nature, bringing nature into our houses, whether we celebrate Christmas and have a Christmas tree, or whether you just bring an evergreen into your house and decorate it in any way you want to. Because to be honest with you, a Christmas tree is really a tradition borrowed from Yule, the winter festival. Uh, and, each um, type of spirituality kind of decides what goes on that tree. Could it be fruits? Well, these days you don't necessarily want fruit just hanging out in your apartment, but do you put ornaments on it? Do you put lights on it? What do you do with um, that bit of greenery that you bring into your house? Or do you decorate your door with a wreath, which is another way to welcome nature? Do you put up maybe some mistletoe berries in your house to suggest, romance and camaraderie, right? How are you going to celebrate this festival right now? Okay. And one of the things that is most important about uh, the solstice is the idea of dark and light. And I think sometimes people get the idea that the only valid um, spirituality or spiritual meaning comes from the light. But the light only exists because the darkness does. Each needs to exist, and that neither is inherently good or bad. Okay? Because you can use light to harm the same way you can do all kinds of dastardly stuff in the dark, right? Each can be what we would consider to be good or bad. And I try not to use those terms because to me they're just judgmental, right? Um, I think sometimes we should focus more on, is it something that is harmful or beneficial? Is it something that is helpful or unhelpful? Is it something that is easily understood, or is it something that's misunderstood and therefore can become harmful to us, or not in our best interest, something that doesn't serve us, so that we really want to release that out into the world, right? So we also want to think about light and darkness in terms of our own personal growth, because we may consider ourselves light workers, but the light work only happens because we delve into those darker parts of ourselves. We do our shadow work and we learn to understand ourselves much better through that work. And then we are thus able to increase and to expand the amount of light that we can respond to and that we can project out into the world. So the light and the dark always go hand in hand. Okay. Maybe not equally, because, I don't believe in that idea of, strict balance where, you reach a still point where everything makes sense. I don't think that ever happens. But I think we get into a kind of flow, like that yin and yang symbol, where one is chasing the other, where we are able to find flow in both the lightness and the dark, so that we don't become stagnant. We don't delve so much in one or the other that we don't ever really see the other. And we don't recognize how we have sometimes gotten lost in trying to search for one or the other. So the solstice is really a time to get rid of those things that are not serving, to have insight, the light, into those dark places where we know that there are some things that we have been holding on to that we really need to get rid of and to release. And one of the things I was talking about earlier was the idea of decluttering your home. This is a great time of year for decluttering your home. Get it the same way you're putting up stuff and decorating. Find all those things in your house that are just taking up space and that no longer really are a part of your active life any longer. And those things you can give away, you can take to Goodwill or somewhere else that will resell them. I mean, I know these places are for profit, but lots of people do thrift, and it does help them to find items that are still of value, but not to you. Give them to some place where someone else can find them and use them. Give them to friends. You say, I was thinking about you. I realized I had this thing in my house. I don't really use it. Um, is this something you want? Right? We can do that as well. But the minute that we declutter, we can then welcome in newer, clearer energies, and we have more space now for those things that we actually desire to come in that than we had before. So this is a great time to clear away space for the new season coming in, because each season has its own vibration, its own energy, its own purpose, its own symbols, its own connections. And so once we get ourselves put away our fall, and we can welcome in our winter so much better. Okay. So now, one of the things that you might want to do to really symbolize that you are celebrating um, the solstice is to create an altar or meditation space. I know some people are not comfortable saying altar because they feel that that is maybe more religious for religious purposes or whatever. But if you create a meditation space, right, or a sacred space that's not necessarily an altar, but gather up some items of winter that suit you. Okay. And if you're going to create this meditation space, you want to concentrate on the four corners: north, east, south, and west, right? North is the time for winter, the time for um, maybe some pine cones or crystals or whatever represents winter for you. Okay. Then we're going to get to east, right? Which is air. So you may want to have some incense, a feather, something of that nature on that corner. Then you get to south, which represents the summer. So you might want to have something that relates to fire. Maybe that's where you put your candle. Okay. You may have one candle in the center, but you may want to put a candle in the south as well. And then finally you have west, which is water. And water also has to do not only with things that flow. You can put some actual water, and you can also think about what other liquids you might want to add to your meditation space. Something that means something to you. Okay, something usually covered, because we don't want to leave just things out. Even though that seems to be like an idea people have, that if I covered up, you know, somehow I'm not really putting the energy of it into my space. But nonetheless, you will be. So don't think about it that way. Okay. So now another thing you can do is to get a piece of paper, something like this. I have this little um, thing I got from, and write down some things on your list that you no longer wish to have in your life. So say you want to get rid of, let's see, confusion. You're not sure what to do, where to do it, how to do it in your life. Write it on your piece of paper. Or how about, I want to get rid of self-doubt. Or how about, I want to get rid of debt. Or how about, I want to get rid of old clothes that I've had in my closet for so long, but I I haven't done anything to get rid of them, right? So you can take your list, fold it up, right? And you can take it in your fire and burn it. I don't think I'm going to do that right now because I don't have any liquid to put this in. But you can just take it, put it in your candle, and then have maybe a cup nearby, something that's not flammable, and allow your paper holding your the things you want to get rid of, and let that burn away. And as it burns away, you can even say a mantra or a chant to yourself. I release, and then you can mention the things that are on your list in the fires of the solstice. I release whatever it is to the energies, to the fires of the solstice, and I let them go. Okay? So now you can do that at your leisure on the solstice. But remember, the solstice is also about bounty. So maybe on the solstice, you want to have a beautiful feast day. Cook something you really love and have that as your supper or your dinner that night. Maybe break out a glass of wine, okay, which is also a symbol of bounty, right? Um, and have a nice feast. Maybe invite some friends over or go out with some friends to celebrate this energy of the sun coming back, okay? And if you have any particular traditions from your spiritual path, now's the time to break them out, and don't be afraid to combine different types of spiritualities together, because when we look at the holidays that we do celebrate, a lot of them tend to be a mishmash of some from here, some from there, some from everywhere, but they have occurred so far in the past we're really not aware of where our traditions come from or where they originated. Okay, so now the final thing I'd like you to do is to come along on a little bit of a meditation with me, just to welcome in the energies of the solstice that we're going to celebrate on the 20th. So start by just taking a few deep breaths. Excuse me. And just imagine yourself, visualize yourself standing in a winter forest underneath a starry sky. What do you hear? What do you see? What do you smell? What animals do you feel around you? Take note. And now imagine a beautiful golden light forming at the center of your heart. And as you inhale and exhale, this brilliant light becomes brighter and brighter and bigger, expanding and engulfing you in beautiful heart-centered energy. And as you stand there, feeling your feet against the earth, you can spread your arms wide and just welcome in the energies of the forest, of the winter, of the solstice. And as you exhale, release any energies, tensions, any part of your energetic system that you no longer need. Breathe it out. And breathe in and feel this golden heart light around you expand and strengthen. And as you breathe out again, completely release all that no longer serves. And now bring your hands in to cover your heart center and send yourself beautiful energy of healing, renewal, restoration, and peace. And I thank you, thank you, thank you for joining me. If you have any questions about the solstice or anything we've talked about tonight, please feel free to contact me, to DM me, and we can talk about it even further. Thank you so much for joining me. Bye bye.